And we are live. Welcome to the NBA Deeper Dive. It is Monday, March 4th. I am Josh Engleman. I'm joined by Matt Belman. We're brought to you by BetMGM. We've got a 6-game slate ahead of us. Unfortunately, it stretches all the way till 10:30, but we'll take what we can get. 6 is sort of like the low end of perfect, and I'm happy with it. Before we get started, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you know when everything goes live. Follow us both on Twitter. What's going on, man? How's your weekend?
Weekend was solid. It is sort of like I don't know what to call it, like kind of mindfucky that like sometimes the slate ends at like with the last game being at 8. Sometimes it's at 10:30.
Yeah.
Especially for us, like on like East Coast time zone. Like it's a big difference. Like it's a
huge.
big difference in like what you do that night.
Yeah. I mean, this is the long one. This is 7:30, 8, 8, 9, 10, 10:30. You're in for the long haul today for sure. I don't love it. I don't hate it. I'm used to it, obviously. So are you, but we have gotten spoiled lately of just having it be a little bit better than that. The 10:30 one is the dagger, really. That just is so late.
I feel like there's not enough rhyme or reason on like what they're doing for each specific slate. Maybe I'm wrong there.
I think DraftKings has rhyme or reason. FanDuel does not, because they cut the two late games. They only have a 4-game slate today.
Yeah, that sucks. I feel like you can't do that unless the slate's a little bit bigger.
Yeah, like DraftKings isn't cutting in, from what I remember hearing and just in general, they're not cutting anything below 6 games no matter what.
Oh, okay.
And like in this case, if there was another game somewhere, I don't think they would have cut anything from 7 to 6 just because of how it's scattered. I think DraftKings is like mildly doing it with an idea of like everything else. DraftKings pays like 10% more attention than FanDuel.
Yeah, that's fair. At least there does seem to be some purpose there, which is good to hear at least.
Yeah. This is a weird slate. We've got Memphis, Brooklyn, disgusting. Portland, Minnesota, disgusting. Washington, Utah, disgusting for the other reasons. We do get a fun OKC Lakers game, but that's super late night. The only thing we want to watch actually is Clippers Bucks at 8 o'clock. So that first 30 minutes of our playback stream of Memphis, Brooklyn, that's really going to get people in the door.
Oh man, what an ugly, ugly game. Yeah, I feel like there's 2 solid games on this slate with the Thunder, Lakers, and then the Bucks Clippers, as you mentioned. So I don't know. Not the worst night for like that's probably the is that like the prime is there a primetime doubleheader? There might be an NBA TV doubleheader.
I legitimately have no idea. I never notice. I never know what games are on since I have everything.
Yeah, that's fair.
Like I don't ever think about what channel these games are on until I got to figure it out. But we got to pay attention to some of these games. That Washington-Utah game in particular will be a bit of a deep dive for us, both literally and figuratively for this show. Memphis and Brooklyn is slightly different. 10-point underdog, Grizzlies, in Brooklyn, 206.5 total. That total is low enough to take Memphis below the 100-point total, which is just usually a real good sign that your team is shit. And today's no different. No Brandon Clark, no Desmond Bain, no Ja Morant, Scottie Pippen, Derrick Rose, Marcus Smart, or Zaire Williams, which is very new to us. Jaren Jackson is doubtful. Yuta Watanabe is doubtful. We have at most 10% ownership coming into Jordan Goodwin. It's like 10 to GG Jackson, just shy of 10 to Santi Aldama and Vince Williams. If you're playing on FanDuel, a reminder, there are only 4 games on your slate. Jordan Goodwin is 25% owned. Santi Aldama is 19% owned. The relativity between these two things is very different. The slate sizes change everything when it comes to ownership compared to the two sites. When you look at Memphis today, do you see anybody that you're interested in? Because we do have a small enough slate where we can't just fully ignore them.
No, but this is definitely a spot where only getting there if you're playing 150. And even there, it's like in minimum doses. I mean, all the guys you mentioned are fine. They're not like cheap though. So you're actually paying for them is the biggest problem I have with it.
Yeah.
I mean, Brooklyn's not great, but Memphis is so atrocious offensively. It's really hard to trust them them on any given night. They're like third, fourth tier options for me today. I agree with you. It's a small enough slate where we have to at least talk about them.
Yeah.
But I think there's other spots that aren't getting love that I like more than Memphis, who's also not getting love. The only reason I could see for going to Memphis is the lack of ownership. But I think there's other spots I'd rather go to that are getting similar ownership, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And like Memphis is showing as a good large field GPP team. Like everybody shows up with a little bit of positive leverage. GG Jackson, Aldama, Vince Williams, Jordan Goodwin, they're all just at 10 or 11% optimal. So they look okay, but they're never going to be the first guys you're looking at. I actually got to 19% Vince Williams. He's the only guy that I got double digits of. I have 9% GG Jackson, 7% Santi Aldama. Like those are the guys that I expect to get and want to get. And, you know, with Vince Williams' position, shooting guard, small forward, I'm not surprised he's the guy that's shown up a little bit more for me. I don't mind getting to some pieces, but I'm happy that I'm getting to the real pieces from Memphis in Vince Williams, in Aldama. And then I feel like GG Jackson is a real piece at this point. This is going to be a guy that's going to be playing for Memphis in the future. Even when they're real, I think GG Jackson has a future here.
I agree with you. And I also agree with you with what you said. Like, they're not building blocks, but that's where the size of the slate really comes in. Those second tier, third tier options that you have to fill out your roster with. Not sure I will get there because of their price points, but
yeah,
it's a size of the slate thing. You can't completely cross them off. That said, as someone who's playing minimal lineups, I wouldn't be surprised if I have 0 Memphis.
Yeah, that wouldn't shock me in any way. If I trim this down and we're playing, you know, high level 3 maxes and single entry stuff, someone might sneak in as a last dude in, but
Sure.
they would not be guys that you're starting your build. They're not one of the first couple clicks, that's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I wish I had more to say here. I assume their defense is awful when Jaren Jackson isn't around. I mean, they're dead last in offense. I assume that number 9 defensive rating takes a bit of a tumble when Triple J is gone. So maybe this will look a little bit better for the Brooklyn offense, or whatever we want to call the Brooklyn offense, which doesn't really exist either. No Ben Simmons today, no Cam Thomas either. Ownership, though, is coming into Brooklyn. 20% of it to Dennis Schroeder, 20% of it to Cam Johnson, around 15 for Nick Claxton, around 10 for DSJ, Dorian Finney-Smith, and Mikal Bridges. My first question to you is this, because I see Brooklyn, they have Dorian Finney-Smith, they have Keita Bates-Diop. What's going to happen when the first hyphenated name player has a baby with another like hyphenated name woman? Will they go, will it be like Keita Bates-Diop Finney-Smith with 4 dashes? Is that like, are we going to do that? How are they going to print that on a jersey?
That's such a good question. It couldn't be Bates-Diop Finney-Smith. It would have to be like Bates Finney-Smith, because like in that, but like they're connected.
Do the 2 first ones have to be first? Is it Bates Finney Diop Smith? I don't like, what would be the proper order?
I'm not sure. Great question though. I love where your head's at. Got me on my toes.
Yeah, I started thinking about it. I was like, I mean, that's inevitable, right? You get double hyphenated names, and it's just like, well, I'm not going to change my name. Let's just give them all 4.
Might as well add a junior or a senior too on the end.
They're not even like, that kid's not even going to be able to print a debit card. There's not going to be enough characters on the bottom. He's just going to run out of characters completely. It's one of the more confusing things that I see coming in the future. And what happens then if that kid with the 4 hyphenated names has a son as a junior, and like then you're stretching it out even further. It's so complicating. Anyway, Brooklyn Nets, lots of ownership coming in. Who stands out?
I like Brooklyn more than Memphis, obviously. This game just sucks. So Cam Johnson's price is up, but he's playing really good ball. You know, their offense, I don't know if it's better without Cam Thomas, but there seems to be more fluidity there. Like, because he's just, for lack of a better word, a ball hog.
It's the right word.
Bridges also playing good ball. I think he's fine. Price back up a little bit, 7,600. Still think he might be a little bit too cheap. He's one guy not getting love. So again, there's more opportunity costs because of his price tag, but he would be like probably my favorite piece if I had to choose one. Claxton looks good. The reason I say Brooklyn and Memphis are similar is because, like I said, I like the Brooklyn plays more, but they're at price tags where I don't think these guys stand out either. Like Schroeder, 6K getting 21.5% ownership. I'm fine with it. I don't love it though. What about you?
So I'm pretty well neutral to all of these dudes. Like I understand why the ownership's coming in. Most of these guys are right around their optimal rate as well. Like I have 24% Schroeder, he's 22% owned. Nothing to write home about there. I don't have much to say. Like that makes sense to me. I'm right on the number for DSJ, for Dorian Finney-Smith. I have 13% Bridges at 8%, so like not a big stand. I've got a little bit of Claxton at this point, 20%. He's 13% owned. The only guy that I'm taking a big stand on is Cam Johnson, 5,800. He's 18% owned. He showed up in 33% of my lineup so far. So that's the most I have of anybody from Brooklyn. But I look at it and it's just like, this is a Memphis Grizzlies team with no Triple J out there. Like it's Lamar Stevens and Trey Jameson as the back line. I'm gonna take my chances on getting to some Brooklyn pieces here. Nobody in abundance, but combinations of two of these guys probably in a lot of spots.
Yeah, because never worried about Brooklyn blowing anyone out, really.
No.
I mean, sure, it could happen, but I'm not playing these guys because of that. They are in a good spot. I mean, Memphis, as you've alluded to, they're missing so many players. Like they're sloppy. They turn the ball over. We saw a bunch of Portland guys get there over the weekend. Now, different Portland guys in each contest, but yeah, this is a good spot for Brooklyn. I'm cool with it.
Yeah, I mean, we have four guys double digit owned, five guys double digit optimal in between 11 and 19 for Cam Johnson. And then you've got DSJ sitting there, 9% optimal, 8% owned. I think it's just a testament to how bad Memphis is that it's kind of squeezing whatever value you can out of basically everybody here from Brooklyn. But I'm getting basically the entire group of starters plus the one guy that's going to play extra minutes because he's the backup in DSJ. Like it's Cam Johnson, Schroeder, Dorian Finney-Smith, Bridges, Claxton. I'd feel a lot worse if I was getting Jalen Wilson, a bunch of Day'Ron Sharp, like Lonnie Walker at this point up to 4,100, tougher to get to. So I'm happy with the dudes that I'm getting from this team.
It does make it so much easier to get to them without Cam Thomas in the mix.
It really does. Well, that's what happens when you remove 30% usage from a dude. Everybody feels a little bit better about that. Like everybody gets to participate a little bit more because he's just gonna shoot every time. Every time he has it, his goal is how can I get this shot up? 206.5 total is just dreadful though. 98.25 for Memphis today. Oof.
That's got to
be fun to watch
for the seasons.
Yeah, we've been seeing these guys creep just below that 100 mark as of late in these games without Triple J. This is sort of like the floor of what it could really be. It's brutal. I have nothing else here to say about the Brooklyn Nets.
Same.
I do have to talk a little bit about the schedule for the rest of the day. It's very simple. NBA Live Before Lock is coming up next. As long as you hit the like button on this show, you'll be able to see it. You don't have to leave this stream. You stay right here. Live Before Lock just starts up after we finish this show off. But if you want to be able to see it, you got to hit that thumbs up or it will black out your screen. And then we move exclusively to playback at 7:30. Myself and Greg will be on there. Unfortunately, we'll be watching the Memphis-Brooklyn game for the first half hour, but come check us out. We might do some early bets. We'll take a look at potentially some pick'em site cards. We'll talk about current ownership, potential news that could be popping up. That's the place that you want to be. It's playback.tv/stochastic. Link is dropped in chat right now. If you have League Pass, awesome. You could watch these games along with us. We're all watching the exact same stream. The whole game stream, the whole League Pass stream is on for you with us overlaid on top of it. Just like this show sort of is, but with basketball in the background. Even if you don't have it, we have some VIP passes that we could hand out to some people to let you join in on our experience. We do some giveaways from time to time. It's a pretty fun thing to do, guys, so make sure you're joining us. Costs you absolutely nothing. Playback totally free. You might get lucky enough to grab a little bit of League Pass for the night. The Los Angeles Clippers are 4-point underdogs in Milwaukee, 224 total. The only man on the injury report for the Clippers today is new. It's Russell Westbrook. He broke his left hand yesterday. On the Milwaukee side, Giannis is questionable. Everybody else that's normally available is available. The Russell Westbrook ownership, or the Russell Westbrook injury, did not exactly unlock anything for the Clippers. 5% ownership coming into Kawhi, 8.5% optimal for Kawhi. That is the highest number for both sides for the Clippers. Only difference on FanDuel, Kawhi Leonard is coming in at 21% owned. Do you anticipate getting to anything from the Clippers here? Decent enough matchup, but this might be the worst team on today's slate from a value perspective.
Yeah, losing Westbrook does nothing for them from a DFS perspective. He just wasn't even playing enough.
Yeah.
Their prices are up. Kawhi at 9K. No one from this game is getting a lot of ownership, and it's because everyone is so expensive. Like, this is one where you look at it and you're like, Clippers, Bucks, like, let me game stack it. Good luck. You know, like, maybe you can get two pieces, one from each side. So this game is is probably the best game from a real life perspective. And I wouldn't mind getting to Kawhi or Giannis if I could make it work both. It's impractical tonight, though. I mean, listen, I like Kawhi. 9% chance of being optimal, 5% ownership, but that 9% chance of being optimal is so much lower than we've been seeing for him. And it's based upon his new price tag. So it's hard to get here. I mean, Harden's 9K. I think these guys have upside, but tournament, like, I love the idea of spending up to be contrarian for these guys, but that's all it is.
I have one single share of Zubats and nothing else for this Clippers team right now. And like, that seems pretty reasonable to me. Like, obviously, if Kawhi Leonard or James Harden or Paul George were in my lineups, cool. Like, I'm going to move forward and be happy to see them. They're not. They're not showing up in anything. And I don't really see any way to anything that we can do about that. Would I be surprised at all if one of those guys was in the winning lineup in this 100,000 person contest today? Nope. That type of thing is probably the path, but they're just not going to look as good as everybody else priced around them right now. That's why we see no ownership. They project worse than whatever's in their range. So that's a decent pivot if you build a pretty chalky lineup, but it's not going to be the first guy you're putting in there. That's for sure.
No, definitely not. Again, if I were playing 150, I'd probably get sprinkles of these guys. For me, the question isn't like, how could one of these guys end up in the winning lineup? Because they're obviously who they are. How does like 2 or 3 of these guys from this game end up optimal? And I just don't see it.
No idea. Whoa. Raptors signed Kelly Olynyk to a 2-year, $26 million extension.
I like that for him. I mean,
yeah. I'm going to assume that second year is a player option or as a team option. And that's really just like a 1-year extension. That's my guess. I don't know that for sure. I say we just get right out of this Clippers game and go right to the Milwaukee Bucks side of it. And it's kind of the same story, just like a little tiny bit better. 11% ownership coming into Bobby Portis. 6 or 7% ownership to Giannis, Dame, and Pat Bev. Highest optimal guys are Giannis and Dame, around 9% each. It's sort of the same same vibe. How do you feel about paying up for the 11-5 Giannis Antetokounmpo? Because as of right now, or not even as of right now, that's a stupid way to say this. The salaries aren't going to change. Giannis is the most expensive guy on today's slate by $800 north of Shea. Another 1,000 ahead of Domantas Sabonis, another 1,400 ahead of AD. Do you like getting to Giannis?
I do. It's hard to make it work, but I do, because for me, the reason he's not getting love isn't because like there's other good spend up options. That's not it at all. None of the spend up options are getting love, and he's the best one. It's because guys like Collins and Sexton, Kuzma are eating up a lot of ownership. And you can't roster all those guys and play Giannis because you have a salary cap. I think it's really interesting, and like the $4, like you've talked about a lot with 100,000 people in it, to not build that way, because the Kuzmas and John Collinses of the world have disappointed before, and they will disappoint again. Now, that's not to say they're not really good plays tonight and better point per dollar plays than a guy like Giannis. But if I were spending up and allocating that salary, I think it's Giannis by a good amount.
I wish I were getting more. I'm not right now. I have 9% of Dame. That's the most I have of anybody. And that is spot on his optimal rate. But I do have one, two, three, four. I have 7 different bucks in at least one lineup, but no more than 9%. So if that's like, that's sort of what we're looking at here. A lot of like, you can be in a lineup, like one lineup with Bobby Portis, one lineup with Jay Crowder, 2 lineups with Pat Connaughton, 3 with Malik Beasley. It's just scattered, uninteresting stuff. They're all priced correctly.
Yeah, it's funny though. That's a lot of this slate except for Utah.
Yeah, it really is. And that's the like sort of brutal part of what we've got going on here. There's not a lot of value out there anywhere except for the one game where it's just like, okay, everybody's playing Wizards Jazz. We all know how that's going to go. So that should be a real treat for everybody involved.
Yeah.
We also have the news that like Giannis is questionable. He could very easily not play.
Well, then
I assume he's playing for sure, but that's how we get some value.
Yeah, then you just, all the Bucks look really, really good then for obvious reasons.
Yeah. And I don't think we need to really explain what happens there. Play a bunch of Bobby Portis. You're probably going to be more interested in Jay Crowder. We could probably even have some sort of mini conversation of Danilo Gallinari because he's flat 3K. You're certainly bumping Damian Lillard in a big, big way. Like it raises every boat for the Bucks. But for now, he's in. And Milwaukee is relatively uninteresting.
Yeah. I think you said it best there.
Speaking of uninteresting things, the Portland Trailblazers get to play basketball today. 14-point underdogs in Minnesota, 210 total. This is the second worst offense against the number 1 defense and 2 below average teams in pace. The interesting piece for Portland, maybe that's not the right word, Q tag on DeAndre Ayton, Q tag on Tumani Kamara, Q tag on Matisse Thybulle, no Shaden Sharp, no Scoot Henderson, no Malcolm Brogdon, doubtful tag on Jeremy Grant. So they are walking wounded and very, very rough. It's basically single-digit ownership to everybody except for Jabari Walker. 12% owned, 14.5% optimal. A man showing up in way more of my lineups than I was expecting right now. I'm getting Jabari Walker and basically nothing else from Portland. This could also look very different if those Q tags go the wrong way.
Yeah, so starting with Walker, he does look like one of the better, I guess, value plays on the slate, even though you don't think of $4,700 Walker as being a value.
Yeah.
I think he fits that bill tonight.
Yeah.
The guy I also want to talk about is Ayton.
Sure.
I wrote Ayton up today. A little bit of a tough nut to crack. He's missed the past 2 games, but he was doubtful for those games, questionable tonight. It's a bad spot.
Yeah.
But his price is down and he has paid off 6,900 in spades a bunch this year. Like at a falling price tag, I have interest there. Now, a lot of my interest comes from the fact that he's the 3rd highest graded player in our tools as far as leverage goes. So that stands out to me. Really hard to like click that button in minimal lineups. I mean, he's a tough play in multi-entry just in this spot, but I think there's a lot of upside at under 7K for a guy that, the last game he played before he got hurt had like 60.
I have 7%, so I am 1% over the field. I do think he looks to me, he's very clearly the second best thing that you can get to from Portland. I don't know how much I will ultimately get just because Portland also 98 implied total. That is actually lower than Memphis is right now. So it's not an outstanding environment. We'll see what it ends up looking like. Losing DeAndre Ayton, call it 30. Let's just say 30 minutes. It's not important what this number ends up being. Matisse Thybulle, call it 25 minutes. That's 55. Kamara, let's call that 25 as well. We're talking 80 minutes of the 240 minutes they're going to play are a question mark to us right now. So this could make Portland look a little bit different. We lose all 3 of them. Then we're having a conversation about, is Dwap Reith viable at 5,100? Is that something we want to do? I think we all feel a lot better about Jabari Walker if Ayton doesn't play. That's just one other guy in that range where you kind of expect him. He's played 29.5 minutes. in his 14 starts so far this season. You expect that to be a little bit higher if they're just running out of bodies. And then we start talking about who plays the wing. Like, are we playing Banton if these guys are out? Like, there's a path to Portland looking completely different in an hour.
For me, the thing with Ayton and Walker, it's more like I just like Walker so much more with Ayton out because Ayton is going to eat up so many rebounds, like the inside possessions. And that is one thing, like, that I guess you can put a little bit of a feather in Ayton's cap here. That last game where he was amazing was against Charlotte in that shit game. So, like, as a big man, just cleaning things up, he can get there.
Yeah.
And as far as Walker goes, I think Walker's going to play no matter what. Like,
yeah,
I just think that they want to see what he's got. Plus, they don't really have any other options. I just like him a lot more productivity wise if Ayton is out personally.
We got a lot of questions in chat about Ashton Hagins. If everybody's in, he's unplayable. He's 2.5% optimal, 0.7% owned. Not even a guy whose name you should look at when you're scrolling through the app. If Matisse Thybulle and Tumani Kamara end up not making it to this one, then we have to just start consolidating minutes. Then we can probably have at least a little bit of a conversation of how we work him into lineups. 24 minutes 2 games ago. And then in the second half of that back-to-back played 32. Certainly
really
in
well.
line. Yeah, certainly in line to pick up some blowout run in the fourth quarter if this game goes like most people would expect it. But if everybody is in, you're not clicking that name. 0.76 DraftKings points per minute over the past 30 days, which is essentially the entirety of any time that he has played. That's not ideal. You're going to need the minutes. And if he's not getting, he's not, I assume he was min salary that first day.
Yeah, that's
pretty
the thing
close
for
to
me.
it.
Yeah, now he's 4K. And
Yeah.
I know you used to talk about this a lot. Like, that's a third more than he was when he was 3K. You can just allocate that salary better.
Yeah.
I'm not playing him for the blowout run in Minnesota. I'm not doing that personally.
No. Now, like, if we lose Kamara and Thybulle and Ayton are all out at that point, then he's going to play like 30 minutes probably because they're just out of dudes, at which point he becomes a guy that's in the conversation. But out of the gate, I don't think that he looks very good.
Same.
Minnesota side is interesting because they have the ability to play Portland, which is so much better than the opposite side for Portland. However, 10% ownership to Rudy Gobert, 11% optimal. The only two numbers that get north of 10% in either direction. Edwards is at 7 and 7. It's 4 or less for everybody else, but Q-tag Kyle Anderson, Q-tag Jordan McLaughlin. I don't think the Kyle Anderson news really matters. So do you want to get to Minnesota?
Minnesota's tough. It's just really hard to see. Like, how is this? I feel like if this game is competitive, it's not because Portland is scoring with Minnesota. It's because Minnesota is not good offensively. And in that case, I probably don't want much from this game because the guys you want from Minnesota are appropriately priced. That said, it's a good spot for them. And if they blow out, like, they're obviously, at least a couple of these guys are going to do well. I don't think this is the slate where I'd get to Ant personally. I think I like Kawhi slightly more at basically the same price point. So that's that for me. Like, Minnesota looks good here, but I don't think there's one guy I can circle and say he stands out above the rest. Towns, Edwards, Gobert. I think Mike Conley is meh, but like not the worst play in the world. But none of these guys are like standout plays or anything of the sort, to me at least.
I got 8% of Edwards. That's it. That's the most I have of anybody here. This game is so like overwhelmingly likely to see Minnesota win 108-78. And
Yeah,
like
exactly.
none of these guys played the fourth quarter. They don't have to blow them out with offense. They just have to be themselves on defense. I don't get the sense that Portland has the code to crack the number one defense. Like shooting. Their goal should be to get up as many threes as possible and see if they can cut that variance if they can. Not exactly a sharp shooting team over there for Portland, but I thought I could get to more Minnesota. It's just not here.
Minnesota's price really similarly to the Clippers. I like the Clippers more personally.
Scott McMillan wants to know why saying Hagins is unplayable is a true statement for right now. What are we missing here? What's the expectation? Should I be expecting him to play 30 minutes? Because that is not going to be what anyone's projecting.
I think maybe the unplayable is what's sticking out here. Like, he's 4K projected to 16 fantasy points. Is he as unplayable as Luka Garza? No, but like, there's levels to everything. He's not a guy that we should be talking about because he's not.
He has the sixth highest optimal rate on Portland.
Yeah, so
like that right there should just be like, oh, I get it, I figured it out. Like, it's just not a name that you should even consider playing. Like, we're talking about the 60th best guy on today's slate. It's a really super weird thing to care about.
His optimal percentage is right in line with James Harden. That does not make me like Harden anymore. I'll tell you that. Gordon Hayward, John Conchar, Spencer Dinwiddie, Jaden McDaniels at 4,400. Like that, he's with those guys. I think Harden has a little bit of a better chance, but that's just me. Maybe not.
Yeah, it's like that's just how this works. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you expect him to play the final 20 minutes of the game like he did last time out. That's very standard rotation for most people.
Yeah,
he came on honestly, 2 minutes into the third quarter and never left the floor again.
I think, yeah. I don't like either of these guys, so don't take this the wrong way. But if I had to choose, I think I might like Banton even more than Hagins, just because he's just because why not? Yeah, like, and also the shooting guard eligibility,
a better per minute performer,
cheaper. So yeah, I'm not like I don't think Hagins is someone that I would, if I were like building 150 tonight, that I would take out of the pool. I just don't think I would get any.
Let's see. Where do you think 2.5% optimal ranks of everybody on the slate?
It's like
of everybody that we projected, obviously.
This
is going to be fantastic. I'm so excited to do this. It's 77th.
Yeah, so there you go.
77th. Let's just say boom percentage. We'll take the optimal out of it. Just like, how likely is he to just be a guy that where it worked, where you're like, okay, he might not be in the optimal lineup, but he had what we needed. 75th.
Yeah,
I would be doing everyone a disservice on this show if I didn't explain him that way. Unplayable. We start losing guys and he has to be out on the floor. Maybe it looks a little bit different, but based on every single piece of data that exists on Stochastic, if you think that I should be explaining to people that the 77th ranked guy in our tools should be one of them that we should make sure we focus on, we're going to be here for days breaking down every one of these slates every single day. There are 76 better options.
Hagins is like an MLB play. Like, if this were MLB, I'm fine with it, but it's not. NBA is so projectable. So I think, yeah, you're probably doing yourself a disservice playing Hagins on this slate.
Andrew Jennison knows what's up, though. I have now just spoken into existence Ashton Hagins being a lock play today. It's happening.
He's so bad, though. Like, it's never happening except for that last slate. That's the only time it's ever happening.
He might break Portland records today. Whatever Dame has ever done, whatever like Clyde Drexler has ever done in the past, Ashton Hagins is coming for that, thanks to me. So, Ashton Hagins, you might get a paycheck because of today's game. You're welcome.
If he's breaking Dame and Drexler's records, he's surely making the most of that 10-day.
Ashton Hagins time.
Yeah.
I mean, we're going to get Kamara out, Thibault out. He's going to play 32 minutes in the entire second half again in a 30-point blowout. And I'm just going to catch piles of heat. But it won't make the conversation any different. What will make this conversation different is if you guys go sign up at BetMGM. They are the sponsor of this show. I am excited to take advantage of these deals because North Carolina is going to allow me to bet on sports 7 days from now. One more week until I get my juices flowing with bets, but I could still get in right now. You can bet 5 to get $150 in bonus bets. Link's going to pop up in chat right now. Minimum deposit's $10, but you only got to bet 5 to unlock your bonus bets. You get 3 separate $50 bonus bets. Worst case scenario, you lose the $5 bet and all 3 bonus bets, and you're out $5 of your own money. That's a hell of a deal. Imagine hitting 2 of those bonus bets. You're starting off with a pretty sizable bankroll for yourself with very, very limited risk. It's a great deal. I cannot wait to have all of these deals locked and loaded, and I can start bouncing around to different sports books using Odd Shopper to lead me to victory. Here's what we got to key in on. This applies to any event or parlay or same game parlay. You got to be in a legal betting state, obviously. And the legal age for gambling in most states is 21 or over. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem, please call or text 1-800-GAMBLER. But if you don't have that gambling problem, please go to the link that we just dropped in chat and sign up for BetMGM. Get that bonus bucks. It's right there for you. Okay. Washington Wizards. You ready?
Let's do it.
Washington Wizards. 5.5 point underdogs in Utah, 241 total. So the Wizards are pretty easy to talk about. Their guys are in. For the Jazz, I thought we were done. It got worse. Walker Kessler is out. Lauri Markkanen is out. That is information we had all day that already made the Jazz the overwhelmingly most owned team. But now we have Keontae George questionable with the whatever STD that's going around the NBA that's catching all these dudes. So we'll start on the Wizards side. 30% ownership coming into Tyus Jones. About 30 coming in to Kyle Kuzma. Both guys are around 25% optimal. Triple J officially out. Not that we needed that info. Jordan Poole's getting like 10% ownership. Denny Avdi is getting like 10% ownership. Let's start with the 2 guys that are pulling the big bucks here in Jones and Kuzma. How do you feel about that ownership for these guys?
I mean, I don't like it, but they stand out as far as our tools go as like 2 of the best plays on the slate. So I don't like the ownership. They're over-owned, but clearly they're really good plays. Kuzma's price tag down to 7,400. He's cheaper than he's been. Tyus Jones has been really, really good. We haven't talked about too many just really solid plays on this slate. We've talked about mostly pivots. It's because these are the best plays on the slate, these Washington guys, and then obviously we'll get to Utah. But I think Jones and Kuzma specifically look on par with the Utah guys.
I have a ton of these dudes. 50% of Kuzma. He was my number 1 play to start the day. He's only 7,400. He's got a matchup against Utah, who's terrible defensively, plays fast. Like, I like every bit of this for Kuzma. I'm actually neutral to Tyus Jones, too. And I wasn't this morning. I was very limited. And I was looking at it and I was just like, well, these aren't guys that like their rates have changed all that much. They're pretty much running the same sort of guys out there the entire year. Like, I wonder what's different here. Boy, oh boy, is it different. Tyus Jones's assist rate is through the roof since Jordan Poole stopped starting these games, which intuitively makes some sense, but I just assume they were still on the floor a bit more than they are together, and that doesn't appear to be happening. He's got a 40% assist rate since they moved Jordan Poole out of the starting lineup. That was the missing piece for me. I didn't think that it was possible for it to have jumped so much for this sort of team. It did. So I am now neutral on Tyus Jones. I think he looks way better, and I'm very happy to get to both of those guys. What do you want to do with the non-crazy owned guys? The Denny's, the Pools, the Bagleys, Kispert, Koulibaly.
They all look really interesting, especially because this game's getting so much love and they're not. Guy like Poole, he's playing better off the bench. This team is just playing altogether better since he's moved to the bench.
Yeah.
I think he's priced fairly for his median outcome, maybe a little bit too pricey, but certainly has upside there. 10% chance of being optimal, 8% ownership. Denny's like the opposite. I do like Poole more than Denny. I like Bagley more than Denny too. Hard to allocate a center spot on him, but this game has a lot of upside from both sides. Basically, everyone you want on Utah is getting a lot of love.
Yeah.
Whereas Washington, their secondary pieces are not. So that is intriguing for me in tournaments for sure.
Yeah, I got to right around the field on Denny, right around the field on Jordan Poole, who's also seen a bit of a usage bump in that change to the bench. So happy to get those guys. But it really is Tyus and Kyle Kuzma very clearly ahead of everybody else here for the Wizards. And then we get to the Utah Jazz. So as of right now, there is 341% ownership going to this game. The Washington Wizards have 102%. That's the second highest percentage of ownership of any team. Utah has 241%. They are more than double the second highest owned team. And I don't even know what's going to happen to that if Keontae George ends up out. I assume it goes up. So here are the guys from Utah and their current ownership rates. We have 45% coming into John Collins. We'll call it 35 to Colin Sexton and Jordan Clarkson and Talen Horton-Tucker. We also, we have 30 coming into Keontae George, who I mentioned is questionable. 20 to Omer Yurtseven. That is the backup center for the Jazz, for those of you that aren't aware. 15% to Taylor Hendricks and Bryce Sensabaugh. And still just 7% coming into Chris Dunn. Let's start with the guys that you think are just unassailable good options for Utah. When you look at the Jazz, who's your number one?
Sexton.
Okay.
Such a good spot against a turnover-prone, sloppy defensively Washington team. And then you also might get Keontae George out. So the ball will be in his hands more. That said, that's going to bring in more Talen Horton-Tucker, who you never really know what you're going to get with him. Utah,
you're going to get an ulcer from rostering him.
Utah is impossible to get away from. Collins at 6,500 without their other two big guys. And don't forget, this team dealt Kelly O earlier. He's actually been good too. Consistently good. Not amazing, but good. Priced fairly. Again, I mentioned earlier, like, we're talking John Collins here and Kyle Kuzma. These guys have busted before. They will bust again. But they're in really good spots tonight, and they're cheap, and the ownership makes sense. Like, Collins, 45% owned, 33% chance of being optimal. Yeah, he's over-owned. He has a 33% chance of being optimal. I'd rather get different elsewhere than fade Collins. So Sexton, then Collins. I think then, like, it really depends on what's up with Keontae George.
Sure.
Clarkson looks good to me. You know, I think all you really change with Clarkson is more minutes. Like, he is a guy that, you know, runs very hot and cold. So even with more minutes, no guarantee he gets there. But that's the case with any player in reality. So Utah looks like the best team on the slate. I don't even think it's close. That's the problem with them. We don't have a secondary, Charlotte, blah, 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 looks comparably good. We don't even have anything close to them.
No, we really don't. Like, if George ends up out, we're going to get to a lot more Tucker, a lot more Sensabaugh, a lot more Chris Dunn at 3,800. Like, everybody's just getting a bit of a bump at that point. The most I have of anybody right now is actually Clarkson at 51%. I think that shooting guard, small forward positional designation is carrying a lot of weight for me. THT is second at 45%. I don't know. I gave him 18 minutes. I don't feel comfortable with it. I don't have a great feel for it. Like, I assume we'll have information and I'll have swaps that'll, like, redistribute everything that I have here for Utah, but that's where I stand right now. 30% of Keontae George, 30% of Colin Sexton. We have Sexton with pretty big negative leverage, but I'm still very, very happy to get to some of him for sure. I see his ownership and Clarkson's ownership being next to each other, and I become very interested in, like, the relationship between those two just because of the positions. I'm neutral on Sensabaugh. I have 17% of him. I've got 29% of Keontae George, 16% of Taylor Hendricks. The only guy that I'm not really getting to from Utah is Omer Yurtseven. I don't love it, but he is also early foul trouble from John Collins away from having to play 18 to 20 minutes.
Maybe they also have Samanich too, who could eat some of that run. So
They do.
I get why Yurt Seven's getting love. I think he's a fine value, but I don't
Yeah.
think you have to play him. Part of the reason I feel better about Utah than I did, like, let's say Portland over the weekend. Portland and Memphis suck. Like, Utah isn't a great team, but they're good offensively. I like their head coach. They're at home facing an awful Wizards team. Very hard to get away from Utah here.
Giannis cut his pregame warm-up short.
Okay.
I mean, I hope we just get that one before 7:01. It will help that the whole field has 400% of Utah and Washington to move that shit around if we don't, though.
Yeah, I doubt he's playing, though, after seeing that.
Yeah. So let's say Keontae George happens to be ruled out. Who do you think starts in his place?
Oh, I think they can do a bunch of different things, but off the top of my head, I think THT.
Okay. You think they go THT before Dunn?
Yes, but I think it's like 6 and 1, half dozen the other. Dunn or THT would be my two choices. Like it, because I want to say they're really hesitant to start THT, but they were also really hesitant to play him over the past couple months, and now he's back in the rotation because of these injuries. So who the hell knows?
Do you think they would just start Clarkson?
Maybe, but I do think it's more likely it's one of the other two. He's so settled into that 6-man microwave scorer type role. Like, not
I
even.
just wonder if that matters because Markkanen is the dude that's out.
Yeah, that's a good call. Like, because they need offense.
Yeah, like we didn't evacuate Taylor Hendricks. We evacuated the best player. So, and I don't know if they want to keep that Sexton Clarkson balance. I tend to side with you. It feels like they start THT, at which point, THT is live for playing 14 minutes or 34 minutes, and that's incredibly aggravating to think about. How do you want to handle these? How do you want to handle someone like Bryce Sensabaugh, who is 3,200? You get really good positionality. He's been shit in terms of rates. 0.52 DraftKings points per minute. I don't think that's going to be the scene here. Actually, let me hit you with before we get to Sensabaugh. What do you actually think the starting five is? Because we also have to replace Markkanen here.
Yeah, that's like the tricky part, because we kind of went back and forth talking about Keontae George and Markkanen. It's tough without knowing George. So for sure, Collins, Hendricks, Sexton, like those three have been starting. So if George is out, we need two of these guys. I think
Giannis out.
Honestly, like, that's where I could see them starting a guy like Sensabaugh as like the new Ochai Agbaji,
Yeah. Wouldn't surprise me in any way.
I'm not sure. I think for me, it's just a guess, to be honest.
Yeah. And for the most part, I don't think it's going to matter too much. Like, if Sensabaugh starts, then you're feeling a lot better about his minutes. But these guys are going to have to play no matter what if we lose Keontae George as well. And at that point, you're really just sort of juicing everybody. All told, you got to get a lot of these guys. There's no way around it. You're probably getting 2 Utah dudes in just about everything you build. If you just take their aggregate ownership, it's 241%. That's 2.4 Jazz dudes per lineup, more or less.
Yeah, I was going to say 2 might even seem low, but it's just off the top of my head. And now with Milwaukee also looking really good, that will change things for sure.
Let's double back down here. Your favorite Utah Jazz play is Colin Sexton?
Sexton, yeah.
All right. Give me Jordan Clarkson. We're going to battle between 2 scoring guards.
They could both. See, this is such a spot where play both. I mean, I don't think you have to play both, but I'm not playing one because I'm playing the other, especially with Clarkson's new small forward eligibility.
Who else is going to score?
That's what I'm saying. And it's not even just scoring in this matchup. They're off an OT game in LA coming to Utah. This team turns the ball over. This is a great spot for Utah.
Really is. Really is. At least we got a lot more salary so that we can get to some of the real garbage on the slate. Speaking of garbage, the Chicago Bulls are 7-point underdogs in Sacramento, 228 total. Not a lot to talk about here. Alex Caruso is questionable. We're waiting on that news. We do have to talk about the rest of this team, though, because all the main 5 guys for Chicago, other than Caruso, are like 15 to 20% owned and like 15% optimal. That's 20% ownership to Kobe White, to Dosunmu, 15 to DeRozan and Vooch, and 20 coming into a $5,200 Andre Drummond. Let's just start there. Do you like Drummond to 5,200 today, or does that require you to know that Caruso's out?
I certainly like him a lot more if Caruso's out, but he's at a price tag where you can play him no matter what. So, yeah, I like him. I do think once we get Giannis out, our tools will have a different read on the Bulls, just because Milwaukee's going to supplant some of them. But they look good. The prices are falling a little bit. They're in a good matchup. They're all productive. Obviously, there's still no Levine. You know, I think our tools are a little bit higher on them than I am personally, but again, take that with a grain of salt because I'll always fall back on the tools. Vooch looks really good at 7,900. He's not a guy I play that much at all, but he really stands out here. He's not getting a ton of love. They all look good. I think this is a team where, you know, we've talked earlier about like the Memphises of the world. Like, give me the guys from Chicago over the guys from Memphis, knowing that they're a little bit higher owned.
Yeah, I'm getting to Kobe White, and I'm getting a lot of Drummond at 5,200. I gave him 22 minutes. I don't really have a good feel for how much he's going to play. Now, if Caruso's out, I feel pretty comfortable getting decent chunks of Drummond. Like, they're just going to play these guys alongside of each other. You can kind of do that against Sacramento. You know, if you need to hide somebody, you can. Especially if, like, De'Aaron Fox ends up out again. But
it's really not the matchup. I think that you like need to start 2 bigs though. Like you can.
No, but they're going to play them alongside of each other in that
no
like 8 to 10 minute range like they've been. And then you feel a lot better about Drummond getting 22, 23, 24 minutes by default.
No doubt.
If Caruso's in, then it gets a little scary. Like they don't have to play him a single second alongside Vooch if they don't want to.
Drummond's just so cheap where he's got so much upside in that price tag.
And we got to remember, like, another guy in that price tier that is going to usurp a lot of that Andre Drummond is $5,500 Bobby Portis. So that 20% ownership that Drummond is getting now is going to look worse when Portis is now projected to be a much more real thing with no Giannis.
Yeah, Portis becomes like the lock, especially with power forward eligibility. Drummond's ownership will fall off because of that good call.
But Bulls are in a good spot. Sacramento, not a great defense. They play relatively fast. Get to the guys that play 30 plus minutes and you'll feel solid. Like there's a reason they're all like 15% optimal.
Yeah, both sides of this game look like that. Sorry, go ahead.
No, you're good, Sac. I was just going to sort of lean into Sacramento here. 10% ownership to Sabonis, scattered ownership to all of the other guys, 10% to Fox. Fox is questionable. Did go through shoot around. We have learned recently that shit doesn't mean anything for De'Aaron Fox. I like Fox at 8,500 at no ownership if it's happening. He's in 30% of my stuff. He's sort of like my get different pay up option. And I don't really mind that against Chicago other than the fact that they play slow. What else do you like from the Kings?
Fox and Sabonis. I mean, presuming Fox plays, obviously. Both 2 of the top 10 players in our boom bust tool, both coming in with positive leverage. Not the greatest spot in the world, but small enough slate where I think they both look really good. Real quick, did you see Malik Monk on Friday night? Had 4 points with 2 minutes left in the third quarter and finished with 39.
I did not know that that's how he got to that. No.
How nuts is that?
I just knew he nuked after I went on playback saying like, I don't really care that I didn't get to him.
Real points. 4 with 2 minutes left in the third, finishes with 39.
That's him, man. That's
how
he operates. Like he's I'm surprised he got fourth quarter run.
I think he was just
like that's usually the situations where like, oh, it's not the Malik Monk day, it's the somebody else day. But
it must have been like with 2:50 left in the third, he hit like a couple threes and then stayed out there.
Yep. Yeah. So Eric Lindquist certainly was happy about it. That's for sure.
Yeah, I saw him tilting Monk in the first half. Like Keon Ellis got more minutes, so I'm sure he was loving that second half.
Nothing better for the user than watching Eric tilt.
Yeah, as far as the rest of the Kings go, if Fox is out, Monk looks good again. I don't even know what his price is up to. 6,500. Yeah, he's still in play with Fox
Yeah.
out. Obviously has upside, but really Sacramento's pretty easy in that it's Fox and Sabonis. Keegan Murray, when he gets to be cheap, back up to 6K, more of a tournament play.
Yep. We're on the same page here. I like taking a stand on Fox just because of his current ownership, and the ambiguity here might make him be a little bit lower owned, and certainly don't mind rostering him. He seems like my guy that I'm getting a little different for, but I'm neutral to Sabonis. My problem is I'm not neutral, or I'm a little bit heavier on Anthony Davis, which we're going to get to in a second. First, before we get to this final game, I don't want to forget to let you guys know we do have the data all access pass at Stochastic now. This is a relatively new package that we are offering to you guys, but I know a lot of people wanted it. It is now available to you. If you go to stochastic.com and you want to hit that drop down for Stochastic Plus, you could link to it. I assume the link is in our description or in chat. If you don't use our avatar, all access data, every single piece of data behind our paywall, $299.95. If you use our avatar, it drops to $199.95. You save $100. That's projections, ownership, boom bust, whatever top tool we have for that sport. If it's basketball, it's I don't know what it is. There isn't one because there's no top anything, but like top stacks in baseball, top pitchers in baseball, the tools that I pay closest attention to in those sports. You have unlimited data access for all of it, Discord access, and the base level of Sims is tossed in just because if you're willing to pay for all of our data, we'll give you a little bit more. Use that avatar, $199.95, folks. Thunder, 1.5 point favorites in Los Angeles, 238 total. It's a tough spot for the Thunder on the back-to-back. Lakers are an average team masquerading as a team that's better than that. But all the prices for OKC are just sort of what they always are because nobody ever misses. They're always sort of just the same price they always are. 10% ownership to Jalen Williams, 8 to Shea, single digits across the board for everybody else. Only Shea gets north of 10% optimal. What do you like here from OKC, if anything?
Real quick, I always kind of just attributed the NBA boom bust tool as like being the top stack of NBA.
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
It is.
Yeah. It just isn't like because it's not really a team thing.
Right.
Yeah, I think that they look good here because they're good players, but not good in that their prices are fair. This is a team that, since their prices basically always stay the same and they're healthy, when they're in really good matchups, they're going to look good. When they're in mediocre matchups, they're going to look okay. And when they're in bad matchups, they're not going to look great. They're in a mediocre matchup today. They look mediocre. Any of these guys look good as you give me Chet, Jalen Williams, Shea. I mean, sure. I just don't think they look like building blocks, especially now, like with Dame at 8,900. There's other spots I like better. This is a really good game from a watching perspective, but it's not a good spot for them. I hate teams in LA on the second night of a back-to-back. I mean, I'm not playing them because of that. It just doesn't make me like them anymore.
Yeah, just they're not all that cost effective, 8% optimal type plays. You can get to Gordon Hayward if you want. He's 2.4% optimal. I assume we should have been talking about him the entire show at that sort of optimal rate. I bet that's very high for a situation like today. Let's go to the Lakers side, the one that we can actually talk about. 23% ownership coming into Anthony Davis, single digits to everybody else. 19% optimal to AD, 13.5 to LeBron, showing some positive leverage. How do you feel about AD? Let's just start there, since he does appear to be the highest owned pay up option on today's slate and kind of looks a little bit better now that Giannis isn't on his corner.
Yeah, he looks really, really good here. Worst rebounding team in the league as far as OKC goes.
Why do you say that? What has recently happened that you would go out and blaspheme the Oklahoma City Thunder about their rebounding abilities? Has anybody done anything crazy to them?
Yeah, at first I was like, what's he talking about? Whenever Nurkic pulls down 31 boards, you got a rebounding issue. I think we can just call that, call a spade there. Davis looks great here. As much as we love Chet, like, he is not a guy that's going to stop Davis right now. I mean, he's just not physically built for that. And he's their guy inside. So, like, Davis should have his way here. He gets this OKC team on the second half of a back-to-back. He looks great. I'm interested to see if he's still, like, above guys like Dame after we get the update, but he looks on par with them. So I think Davis, Dame, Sexton, Collins, Kuzma, Portis. Like, those are their best plays on the slate.
I got a bunch of them. I have 29%. That's certainly not going to be going anywhere now that I have more value. Probably easier to get there. I've got single digits of everybody else. I'd like to get to more LeBron James here at 9,700. I like that positive leverage.
Yeah, I wrote about him today. He's always a fun guy to roster at low ownership because it's LeBron James. He's been good. Like, he hasn't been amazing at 9,700, but he's been good. I think he's a solid play. It's just, you're probably not playing both LeBron and Davis. Again, if you're multi-entering, maybe you get to a couple of those. And it's really hard to prioritize Bron over Davis here, aside from the better positionality, you know?
Totally agree. I have LeBron relative to salary. I have him 3 fantasy points behind Anthony Davis. That's a pretty big gap. And that's the reason you're seeing one guy be 10% owned and the other be north of 20.
Yeah. So I love the ownership on LeBron.
Yeah.
I don't think you have to play him over Davis because of the ownership. I think it's viable, especially if you're playing 2 other centers, but I do like Davis more. And our tool's updated. The top 5 in our boom bust tool now in this order: Dame, AD, Portis, Collins, Kuzma. So basically, like I thought. And then after that is Sabonis. So I do think that those top 5 are pretty clearly the top 5 plays on the slate.
Who's number 6 then? Hagins? I assume.
Is Hagen's gonna be our new what's his name? Evan Carter?
I hope not, man. I hope not. I don't need Ashton Hagin to be holding up the 100-point shit in the locker room afterwards or anything like that. Anyway, guys, that's going to do it for NBA Deeper Dive. Thank you guys for being here. Shout out to BetMGM for being the sponsor of this show. We're not done yet. Make sure you hit that like button so you can see Live Before Lock coming up next on this stream. And then I'll see you guys in playback in an hour. Peace.
We're back, baby. Another edition of the Stochastic Hall of Fame. We're inducting you fine people into it and giving away a ton of Stochastic memberships along the way. All you got to do to get involved, to get your free month, any Stochastic package of your choice up to $200, is download the Stochastic profile picture at stochastic.com/avatar and tweet your wins at Stochastic HOF. If you finish top 3 in a field of 5,000 or more, you're in. So let's get it started. Michael Diaz. Good night despite missing lock. I assume live before lock. Over 5K in wins. Have a great All-Star weekend, everybody. And let's get on to the second half, followed by Ben P. I love this one. I was a skeptic when I had to switch from my usual process to the Stochastic Sims, but I'm officially all in. If you're not a pro and not using this tool, you're paying the rake. Just an awesome, awesome night from Ben P. Shout out to Ben and congrats on the wins. Then our own Tom Kennedy, just on an absolute tear of late. Talking about Ben, it's been awesome to get these messages from Ben and everyone else. We knew our Sims were the future, but caught a lot of flack for forcing, in quotes, people to use it. See our users loving the new process. Taking down tournament after tournament this year has been incredible. Got a couple of my own with the tools this past weekend and Thursday. Yeah, a couple would be an understatement. $200,000 wins for Tom. And our friend Jorge, just right behind the big boss. This Sims tool should receive an award because the tools and people behind it are just the best in the market. And a $3,000 win for Jorge on a heater of his own lately. Dave DeMattis, Sims tool for the win. Payout isn't huge, but I'll absolutely take it in a field of 35,000 entries. Thanks for all you guys do at Stochastic and keep up the great work. And Sean Geezy back at it again. Actually, matter of fact, Jordan and I had deleted a few of Sean's over the past couple of weeks just because there were so many of them and we didn't have room, and he's up here every week. But second and fourth in the mini-max tonight. If only Fox could have played final 2 minutes. Shout out to the Stochastic team. Sean keeps rolling. Travis, Woolston, EMAC. How about the personal shout out to EMAC? EMAC, been a Stochastic listener for many years. Your info helped me ship 50K last night. A 50K shout out to EMAC. Shout out to Travis as well. PG18, second showdown win in 2 weeks. You weren't kidding, Lobby. The Sims tools crushed the showdown slates. Best tool in the business, $2,400 takedown for PG or Poker God 18. And Tim in Milford, Hey, Tim and Milford. At Stochastic, let's go. $1,000 win in the high five for Tim. And Dave Oliver back. Elway's Army. $2,800 win. Unbeatable content matched with Sims and live show. You guys are the best. Thank you again. Congrats, Dave. Mike Sobey, it was a good day at Riv. $10,000, second place in the Eagle to Mike. And then it's Jay Burke. $200 right there. Simple at Stochastic HOF. The Stochastic Avatar, second place as well. And Brent Lindsay, not a huge win, but I'll take it. $300, second in the end, one. Followed by Mike, again, second place, Iron Mike 53. Let's go at Stochastic. We got any more? Brandon Muller, here we go. We did it at Stochastic HOF. First place, $166. That'll do it. Remember, you want to get involved, you want to get inducted, get your free month of any Stochastic Sims package you want up to $200. Just download the avatar, tweet your wins at Stochastic HOF if you finish top 3 in a field of 5,000 or more. And we'll see you guys back here for the next one.
I'm not gonna sing that one. You make me completely miserable. It's pretty good.
What is happening, everybody? Welcome to NBA Live Before Lock. Do us a favor as you come in, by the way. Like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Myself and Eric Lindquist are going to be breaking down the slate for the next hour. And then as soon as we're done with that, slate's going to start. Josh and myself are going to head on over to Playback. We'll be sweating out the games. We'll giving out some bets. We'll be talking late swap, which I think is probably going to be fairly important for today, considering that we've got a bunch of players that are still on the injury report. We just got guys who were ruled out. We got Matisse Thybulle ruled out. We got DeAndre Ayton ruled out. Jeremy Grant is out. Tumani Kamara is out. But players that are still questionable for tonight. LeBron is questionable. Technically. Well, we could say that one's maybe a little bit fugazi, but LeBron is technically questionable. De'Aaron Fox is questionable. Keontae George is questionable. That can matter a whole ton. Alex Caruso is questionable. So you guys are going to stick around and watch the post-lock show. Something else that we could do over at Playback, which I just found out about. We could leave the games on all night for you guys. That was something that we did on Saturday night, where even though I had planned Saturday and EMAC, it was past his bedtime, we just left the games on so that some people who wanted to watch them Playback, they stuck around and watched in there. We had the chat open so people could chat. So yeah, if you guys want to check out Playback, then yeah, you could just watch games and hang out with the community all night until the final games end. So go check out that as well. We're sponsored by BetMGM tonight. Eric, how are you doing and how was your weekend?
Doing well. I was in Playback for about 2.5 hours after the show yesterday, just hanging out. I had a couple hundred strong, just chatting away, talking through late swap, talking through the showdown slate that was coming up. Part of it is I didn't want to do any cleaning in my house. And, you know, I'm a smart husband who just utilizes his outdoor office to his benefit from time to time. But also, we were just having some really good combos and hanging out. So it's a phenomenal time to come kick it, watch some hoops. You know, we can give away some of those premium opportunities for you to watch League Pass with or without us for sure. So a really cool thing over at Playback, and really my first chance. I got to do the show Thursday. I think I'm going to be doing the show with you as Thursday as well, but that was my first time like really realizing what Playback can do for the community, for everybody else. Was able to do some screen share stuff, so had an absolute blast over there. So go hang out with Josh and Greg here afterwards, because today I cannot do such things.
Yeah, and as people have pointed out, I did get a haircut. And whenever I go get the haircut,
no
my hair goes
kidding.
very fast. I just go for whatever's most convenient. I just walk to the barber shop and I was like, just buzz it all off, and it'll all be back a couple weeks from now. But already, we're getting some super chats that are rolling in. And of course, as per usual, I thought I was going to be head of the news this time, Eric, where it was like, hey, Giannis is out, but I'm getting my shit updated for Giannis right before the show starts. I'm like, oh, look at this. I got everything. And then what happens? We get this just bullshit Blazers stuff. So right back at square one, as per usual, when we're doing this here. Although, let's start with it. Ace of Spade doesn't have the first super chat. He actually has the second super chat. So we're going to open up with Phil Senzik, who says, after hearing that song, Eric, we heard a little bit of your singing as we were coming in. What the hell was it you were singing, by the way?
You make me You make me come. You make me complete. You make me completely miserable. Dun-dun-dun-dun-dun. It's good. It's a good song.
Word. So just to make sure, it starts by saying "You make me come."
Yeah, that's literally it's supposed to be a joke, and then it's you make me complete. Oh, that's adorable. And then you make me completely miserable. So it's kind of like a 3. It's a really sharp 3 to start off the song.
Word. And who sings that one?
Can't remember, but it's a very famous song.
All right. Have you heard this song before, Jordan?
It's a song. I didn't just make it up.
I'm just doubting how
sure everybody
famous it is. You said it's very, very famous.
It's a very famous song. Yes.
Let's see what chat says. Does chat know what this is? Does chat know what this song is? Chat, if this is a very famous song, chat, let us know. But I'm not sure about that.
It's called "Miserable" by Lit.
Okay. Some people saying
it's
Lit, some
very
people saying
famous
Made
song.
Up. Somebody said Nathan saying it's a Tenacious D song. All right. Some people have heard of it. Not everybody, though.
Oh, are you angels? But men rock. That's Tenacious D. It's fantastic.
By the way, Jordan, these super chats we have here, I start with the Phil Senzig one. Any of these other questions were they answered on the last show? Oh, none of them. All right, so I'm actually going to start all the way at the top. So
Josh said, "Fuck it" today. That's what he did.
So we're going to start all the way at the top then.
Okay.
Anthony Masilli, and we'll get to Phil as a couple super chats in there. We'll get to those. We'll start with Anthony Masilli, who wants to know who is our favorite per position, but we cannot include Washington and Utah, and then our overall favorite low-owned play.
Why can't I involve Washington and Utah? That seems like a stupid qualifier.
Well, because he wants us to build. He wants to build some lineups and know, like, all right, Anthony Sharp. He already knows these are the good guys. He wants to know who else we're liking beyond that. He doesn't need us to tell him to go play, like Jordan Clarkson. He knows to play.
Why not?
Jordan Clarkson. He already knows.
Okay, go ahead.
Starting at point guard, that is going to be Damian Lillard for me.
By a lot.
Yeah, so we've got no Giannis. Giannis was ruled out, like 15 minutes or so before we started, and I wish I would have been quicker to bet this because I was, running lineups, trying to get ready for the show and whatnot. But we got the report on Twitter that Giannis had cut his warm-up short. I should have just gone ahead and just bet against the Bucks and bet on some Dame props as soon as we got that news. But I was like, I got to finish this stuff on my computer. Then I'll get over to that. And I really missed the opportunity that I did not get on that. But anyway, with Giannis out, it's got to be Dame as a really, really high priority payoff option on the slate. And it's not all that hard to get up to him. We're getting a bunch of value, and even more value looks like it's going to open up later.
Yes, sir.
How about for shooting guard? What do you got for us at shooting guard, Eric?
So it can't be Utah anything. So like all the Utah guys that we would have said, I'll go to Malik Beasley now.
Yeah, so it cannot be Utah and it cannot be Washington players. Anything else is good, but just
so Malik Beasley, yo, sup? How you doing? What your name is? Oh, what's up? It's a good song too.
I don't know what song that is either. But you kind of trailed out as well. It was hard to hear you.
Jordan Clarkson, it's fire, bro.
I'd love to hear you finish the lyrics of that song.
I don't think I will. Jordan
I'd love to hear it.
I don't think I can.
All right. Eric is cut off song time.
Greg did get the exotic haircut though, so I guess he could probably go out of his way and sing it.
This is the most exotic haircut possible.
Truly.
This haircut's as exotic as it gets.
Yeah.
Shooting guard is Patrick Beverly for me, by the way.
Yeah. Shooting American History X2, apparently. That's what we're doing here now.
That's the goal. By the way, so now that
Lord.
we can't go with any Utah guys,
Edward Norton Jr.
It's just all going to be Bucks guys is my answers. Small forward is Jay Crowder.
I can't say that one even. LeBron James now. LeBron James.
All right, let's move on over to the power forward spot.
Bobby Portis by infinity.
Bobby Portis.
By a lot.
Do you think he starts?
Yes. Actually, that's a good question because there's a lot of these times where you think it's going to happen. He's had all of one start this season. So like math would tell me he's not likely to, but I think it's one of those like weird things where we know Milwaukee just doesn't want to start him. I think he has to, though. I think it's probably his second start. I think it's got to be.
All right, so let's see. What was the situation the other time he started this year? And a big part of this too is that there's no Chris Middleton, so there's
correct.
There's really limited guys, relative to
Utah
other times. That's
on the 4th of February.
All right, I'm pulling that game up because I want to see who was out that day. All right, you said it was February 4th.
Sure is.
All right, so February 4th, it was a road game against Utah. We got 36 minutes, and here's who was out for Milwaukee in that game. There was no Middleton and there was no Brook Lopez. So now we're saying, hey, no Middleton and none of Giannis, because obviously Giannis started that game. I think it's reasonable to think that we could see Bobby Portis start. I think that's the most likely scenario. I'm going to go Bobby Portis. Anyway, Bobby Portis is the answer at power forward.
Love it.
How about at center? What do you have for us at center, Eric? Most rostered player, but it is not allowed to be anybody from Utah or Washington.
Well, I mean, it's Bobby Portis again, but then it is going to be my updated stuff. Anthony Davis. Looks like LeBron and Anthony Davis, after you update, you're just going to be able to get to like every ceiling under the sun. So that's helpful.
Yep, that's what is going to be for myself as well here. Anthony Davis. And we'll see once I rerun everything for the Portland guys, what ends up changing. I don't think there's going to be Portland guys that surpass the Milwaukee and Utah guys for me, but we'll see. We'll see when everything ends up getting updated. There's certainly some good options that end up opening up there, but not anything that I think is going to be as pressing as, say, like a Damian Lillard from the Milwaukee Bucks or anything. Phil Senzig wants to know, Greg, Epstein Island play of the night. Why so quiet? So there was somebody on Live Before Lock on Saturday who was getting upset, saying like, hey, I make up dumb stories. But
you do.
No, actually, you know what this was in relation to? This was in relation to me saying that we got screwed by Anthony Edwards because he had a baby on Friday when we were doing the show on Saturday. And there was a guy in the chat who was saying, if Anthony Davis had a baby, it would be a news story. It didn't come out for a couple of days, but who broke the news to me? None other than Eric over here. So this guy was very upset. But anyway, there was this random guy on Twitter who just responded to my tweet who's like, you'll talk about this, but how come you're not commenting on Epstein? So like, all right.
Yep.
So now we got, who's the Epstein Island play of the night, and why am I so quiet? I don't know, Greg. Never really occurred to me to put out all that much info there on Jeffrey Epstein. With that said, I think that guy's no good. I don't agree with the things he's done. I know Eric's defended it on multiple occasions.
I've
Eric's
never
like, hey,
in my life, you are a
disturbing
person, and this bit is not going to fly. I've let a lot of bits fly. I'm not letting this bit fly. This bit will not fly.
So you don't approve of him having private
right
jets?
now. Stop. Exhibit A.
All right. Well, what you said to me in private, I'll keep it in private.
Watch. Zip it good.
What should be the Epstein Island play of the day? How are we going?
I have no idea. I don't even want to come up with what that is. Like, I think that's a waste of time. We have enough bits.
Our favorite rookie to roster tonight.
Oh my fucking God. No, I'm not doing it. I refuse.
All right.
Nope.
I don't even know if I have one.
Yeah, so then we're done with the bid.
It's a super chat. We have to answer it.
Thank you for the super chat.
All right, here's the answer. If he plays, it's Keontae George. Keontae George is going to go under own tonight.
Oh, for sure. Okay, so there you go. There it is. You came up with it. I did not.
All right. Epstein Island play of the night, Keontae George. Phil, thank you for the super chat. And then Phil also says, after hearing that song, Eric, he needs the lit play of the night. So you didn't want to do the Epstein Island play of the night. I'll let you do the lit play of the night.
What's the lit play of the night?
You have to determine it. This is how it works. We get asked random questions. We have to try to translate to what it is, what it could potentially mean, and then you come up with a play to backfill what the information is.
All right, so it's probably somebody who's gonna fill her up, like lip filler. I don't know, fill up the basket, box score, something. I don't like these bits. We have enough bits. Bits are dead. We're done with bits.
It's the lit play. What's wrong with the lit play?
All right, Lippy Lopez. How about Brook Lopez?
All right, Brooke Lopez. That is the lit play of the night, according to Eric. The next super chat that we have here is coming to us from. Okay, now we got to Ace of Spade. Ace of Spade, who starts by saying that he likes my haircut. Thank you, Ace of Spade. And then he wants to know best DK tiers option. So let's go into DK tiers.
Got him.
Of course, I just got logged out of the site.
That's really too bad. Would you like me to run through them here then quick in the interest of time so we can talk about basketball?
No, I got it.
All right. Anthony Davis, tier 1.
Yeah, so this would have very easily been Giannis, but we don't have Giannis to choose from. So no Giannis. I'm actually going to go with SGA in tier 1. Tier 2. This tier 2 is super easy game.
SGA was so fun to watch against Phoenix yesterday, just toying with them in the paint. Damian Lillard by a country mile in tier 2.
I'm going to go with Vooch in tier 3. How about yourself for tier 3?
Vooch.
Tier 4.
Kuzma.
Yeah, Kuzma. Tier 5, Kobe White. And now tier 6,
by a lot,
John. Pretty big gap.
Yep.
And that does it for all the tiers. Ace of Spade, thank you very much for the super chat there. Next one we have here is from, shout out to Chris Williams, who gifted out 5 YouTube memberships. As always, Chris, thank you for supporting us. Everybody else, if you want to support us, simply like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. And then Chris Williams says, I just want to say thanks for all you do and wishing the best of luck to those who hit the like button, and Russell Wilson type bad luck to those who can't even hit a like button on a free show. #trolls.
Russell Wilson is a multi-millionaire who got paid more money as he got worse at football. He is running good at life. It's the Broncos fans that are running bad. He got out of that about as scotch-free as you possibly could. He's going to get paid to not work.
I've said for a while, I think the best gig you could ever have in sports was coaching the Knicks from like I forget when the Knicks first turned bad, but like the years, we'll say like 2000 to like 2018 coaching the Knicks. You were going to get paid a 5-year contract. You were going to get early summers. You were going to do a year and a half of work and get paid all 5 years of that. That was the best gig out there.
Phenomenal.
Russell Wilson's got a good thing going for him.
But basically like being a college football coach now, like they're the ones who kind of took the cake now. These agents, I don't know what heist they pulled, but like Jimbo Fisher is on a boat somewhere fishing, drinking, having the time of his life, doing absolutely no work because like a $70 million buyout or something stupid. I think that's what I saw when he had his buyout. I mean, just the dumbest stuff ever, these college football coaches' salaries.
We've got a super chat here from B. Nothing else, just his name B. Not even B-E-E, just B, the letter itself.
Bill.
He wants to know, who are our top 3 value plays over on FanDuel? And the FanDuel slate,
I'm playing both.
Way different than the DraftKings slate. Are you playing on FanDuel tonight by chance?
I'm playing both. Yeah, I'm playing 100 on DK. I'm playing 50 on FanDuel. I was like, instead of just playing all 150 over on DK, I was like, I'll just have a little bit of FanDuel going. So I'm making 50 lineups over there today. I feel pretty good about the slate.
Yeah, only 4 games over on the FanDuel slate. So overall, top 3 top 3 value. What do we want to put as the price point on a value?
Well, yeah, not Damian Lillard, because I mean he's now your top play that exists there. You have Bobby Portis; he's the top play. But like Bobby Portis, I'd say 5,500 and under, probably a good cutoff. And like Bobby Portis is, you're just gonna play him in just about everything on FanDuel now at this point. Power forward, center eligibility. John Collins is 6,500, so I wouldn't call Collins value, but Bobby Portis I definitely would.
Taylor Horton-Tucker.
Sorry,
that's certainly one for me. Jay Crowder is another one if we're looking at like that cheap price range. We can't really go sub 4K as the cutoff on FanDuel. There just aren't enough guys that are worth rostering in that range.
So I guess Bobby Portis is 6,500 on FanDuel. So yeah, 6,500 or down, but like I would call... I mean, God, I will say FanDuel did an okay job of pricing it outside of Lillard's 8,600. And like, I don't know how you get away from just jamming him there. I'll go value. I'll say THT, like sub 5K, Bilal Coulibaly and Jay Crowder. Those are your sub 5K guys on FanDuel that are actually in play.
All right, we're on the same page. I mean, I had Crowder in mind as well. Crowder looks really good on DraftKings also, but FanDuel especially, it's only a 4-game slate, limited guys to choose from. You go play him over there. Rajal Patel, Eric Rapp, But people just want to make me say dirty things and edgy things, and they want you to sing songs, Eric. So Eric, Burjal Patel says, Eric, rap Bees in the Trap by Nicki Minaj, and thanks for the content, guys. There's nothing else. He just wants Bees in the Trap.
I don't have that one. I have a lot of other things that I could rap for you. That is not one of them. I apologize. Greg used to do the spoken word rap song of the night, so maybe you could pull up the lyrics and read them off for the people.
Let's see. Bees in the Trap.
I will definitely. I love hearing you say the words to rap songs. It's actually therapeutic.
All right, here we go. So we're pulling up Bees in the Trap right here.
Carry on.
Bitches ain't shit. They ain't saying nothing. 100 motherfuckers can't tell me nothing. I bees in the trap. Be bees in the trap. I bees in the trap. Be bees in the trap. Bitches ain't shit, and they ain't saying nothing. There we go. There we go. All right. Burjal, thank you very much for the super chat. We do appreciate
Beautiful.
it. Jacob Dunn. Jacob Dunn is asking us the Bitcoin 69K play of the day, and then the best plays under 6,900 on DK. All right. So the way the Bitcoin 69K play of the day works, it is best plays under 69K on so 6,900 on DK.
How did he land on that number?
That's what the question was.
Well,
is that what is Bitcoin up to 69,000 now?
Yeah, I think it was just about 70K, but yeah, 69. Nice. I liked it. I liked it. On DK 6,900. I mean, obviously Colin Sexton. Hi, how are you this fine day? Playing him under 6,900. I mean, John Collins, obviously. Jordan Clarkson, obviously. Keontae George, if he plays, obviously. Marvin Bagley, Jordan Poole. Got a lot of guys to be playing.
Sub 6,900. The player I expect to get the most of. What was the price point on? Yeah, Portis at 5,500. That's the guy I'm going to answer.
Yep, that's 100% who it's going to be. I was just listing off other dudes. I'm like, Portis is like the most owned guy in your lineups. It shouldn't. I won't say that it shouldn't be close. There's definitely some stands you can take in that game, but yeah, Bobby Portis, the Milwaukee guy, I will definitely be getting the most of.
Let's see what we have next here. The next question is coming to us from, boy, there are so many super chats that we're getting to. Appreciate the support, guys. This is T22 Tokes. It's super chat. Once again, no question, just saying this is to support Eric's future singing career. Appreciate you guys. Huh. Do you play?
Appreciate you.
What instruments do you play, Eric? I know I've seen you play the guitar.
I'm a guitar and a piano guy. I got both of them.
My youngest brother used to play the oboe. Terrible instrument. Terrible instrument. This is.
I was gonna say my kids will not play drums and they will not play oboe. Those are two things that I definitely will say no to.
Yeah. Growing up to it sounded so bad to the point where it would the sound would give my mom a headache. So when he had to practice, he would have to do it in a closet in the basement so that my mom wouldn't be able to hear it.
Treated him like fucking Harry Potter, the cover under the stairs, like just straight
Pretty
out
much.
Harry Potter your brother.
It's a terrible instrument though. Because it's not
really
even meant,
is.
because it's not meant to be a solo instrument. It's meant to be like, an assistance to the rest of the band. And it really helped him with college scholarship because he was one of like 5 kids in the entire state of New Jersey in his graduating class that played the oboe. So helped him get a scholarship and whatnot. But yeah, rough instrument. Mr. Biggs wants to know our top value play at each position on DraftKings. All right, top value play at each position. Starting at point guard, and if we're going to go, I know that people usually, when they think of value, they think of cheap. The answer is Damian Lillard at point guard, though.
Is Damian Lillard. He's like, what, 6x for a multiplier in our projections? Like, again, I don't think about like things from a multiplier perspective. I know a lot of other people do, but Damian Lillard at 8,700 is quote unquote value.
Shooting guard, that is going to be Delano Banton for me now that everybody's out for Portland.
I think it kind of has to be. I just updated our stuff here, and kind of toying around with what I want to do with him. I mean, this is going to be a really disturbing basketball team as far as the minutes go. I mean, I love Jabari Walker now in tournaments. It would appear, and I think Higgins is going to be the guy that I probably get to the most.
Oh, all right. Well, we're not all that far away from Nuke of the Night time. After we answer this question, we're going to get on over to the Nuke of the Night. Small forward, Eric. Who do you consider the best small forward value play? I'll let you go first on this one because I'm taking some easy answers. I think you're going to answer the guy I'm thinking though.
Small forward, most rostered.
Just your favorite value at small forward. Small forward does not have nearly the same value as other positions.
Yeah, Jay Crowder.
Yeah, it has to be. Power forward has to be Bobby Portis.
Has to.
Center's
Bobby Portis / John Collins.
Fair enough. Yeah. I'll add Jabari Walker into that mix as well. If we want to go with a lower owned guy who has power forward and center eligibility, so a little flexibility, you can move him around. A couple more super chats, Eric. Are you ready for the Nuke of the Night?
Oh, see, the thing is, Nuke of the Night probably has changed to some degree. It was going to be Jordan Poole. I don't know if I can, with a straight face, tell people to put money on Jordan Poole. The ownership keeps coming down, though. Let's go to Nuke of the Night. I got it.
All right. Jordan, play the animation. Eric's ready for it.
Go.
Nuke of the Night.
We got EMAC in there saying, Greg, blow his balls off in all caps because EMAC is an adult.
Yeah.
EMAC is adult-ish.
There were some transgressions over
My God.
All right, Eric. It is time for the Nuke of the Night. Eric, what do you have for us today?
All right. So here's the thing. I am pretty positive that we should be. I'm just gonna do it. I'm running it back here. Jordan Poole is going to be underowned today relative to his chances of success. He's already got positive leverage in the boom bust tool, but the problem is Milwaukee just showed up with Damian Lillard, where that was going to be a guy who was pulling very little or like no ownership, and now he is pulling all the ownership and all the land, but that is going to push down and suppress the ownership even further of one Jordan Poole. And the minutes have been there in competitive spots, 38 in 2 of the last 4, which is a little bit terrifying to know that kind of upside there exists there for him. You add Bilal Coulibaly, who's a 14% usage basketball player, back into this starting lineup, supposedly coming back to the starting lineup right from the get-go. That's 30 minutes that we're going to put in Bilal Coulibaly for. We've got him at 28 and a half here. That is going to suppress the usage or the opportunity for one Corey Kispert, for some of the other guys who have more usage than Bilal does. And Jordan Poole is going to come off the bench and just go out and chuck against a terrible backcourt. So Jordan Poole at 6K, I get that nobody wants to click on him. I get that he has been the most disappointing basketball player you could ever imagine, but he is now sub 5% in the best game environment overall on the slate, and it's definitely diluted. We've got Portland, we've got Milwaukee now, so I'm not saying to go completely berserk. I would have gone completely berserk if things had stayed the same and Giannis hadn't gotten hurt, but here we are, friends. Jordan Poole, Nuke of the Night. I could barely even say that with a straight face.
Yeah, I mean, so it's funny because I want to go a different way on Utah, and that is with Keontae George. And there's so much other value that's opened up. He's questionable heading into lock. We don't know if he plays or not, but I mean, you guys know by now how I like to build a lot of my lineups, which I want to give myself flexibility for late swap. And I think it makes sense to have Keontae George in lineups. If he ends up playing, there's a ton of value on Utah, and he's not one of the guys the field is going to be loading up on. So Keontae George, I'm going to be getting overweight exposure to him if he's in, and then if he's out, no big deal. I'll have him in lineups, and it'll be easy to late swap off of him. So give me Keontae George as my play. And I know that I brought him up earlier as well, but Keontae George, there we go. That is going to be my Nuke of the Night. Is he going to make his way into some of your lineups, Eric?
He is. The other guy I was actually contemplating, just because I wanted to run it back from Friday, was Malik Monk. It's not like Malik Monk doesn't have 40, 50 fantasy point upside. De'Aaron Fox keeps going through shoot-arounds and sitting out, so I have no idea what to believe anymore with whatever the heck is going on with him. I will say again, if you have De'Aaron Fox out, go ahead and roster some Malik Monk, but you're going to have an hour after Washington, Utah to potentially wait for that. And I got to think that he's going to be like a true game time decision, whatever the hell that means.
There we go. All right, let's see what we have next. This one is coming to us from Michael Applegate. He says, does SGA win the MVP if the Thunder win the West? So one thing that I think we should clarify here, and I assume that Michael means if they're the number 1 seed in the West, but keep in mind, because he says win the West. So I don't know if he means, finals team or it just means number 1 seed.
I know what you mean.
Keep in mind, MVP is a regular season award and the votes are due right after the regular season ends. So if the Thunder advance to the NBA finals, that'll have no impact on the MVP voting. As far as will SGA win the MVP if the Thunder are the number 1 seed in the West, I will say very possibly. I still think it's more likely to be to be Jokic, but there's like a little bit more information needed. The one thing I'm fairly confident in, the winner is going to be either SGA or Jokic. Luka is going to have to really move up in the standings to be getting any kind of consideration. Yeah. If they are in the play-in game, there is no chance that Luka will win MVP because the votes are due before the play-in games, and there's no way that the voters are going to vote for somebody who might miss the playoffs. But anything you would add to that, Eric? I know that you're somebody who did bet SGA for MVP, I don't know, a month and a half, 2 months ago or so.
Yeah, I put $50 on it because it seemed fun. And also talking through the process of it, mainly had to do with Embiid as we was accumulating games of he's dinged up, and you could buy a little bit low on it. And it was like plus 350 or plus 400 that I ended up getting it at. I'll have to double check, but I completely forgot about that ticket until just now. I love the SGA piece. I do think not voter fatigue, but Jokic has won it twice. I do think that definitely hurts him. I know that Denver's been playing really, really well, and maybe we get to a couple of games. I don't know if they play each other on the schedule. That'd be something very interesting to see. Getting down to the end of it, if there's like a prime event game, because I know Embiid didn't duck at the one game they played in Philly, and he basically won his MVP against Jokic last year from that game. Obviously it's an entire regular season ensemble, but like SGA would be my vote right now because it's just insanely special what he's doing. And I'm not going to call it a down year because Jokic continues to ascend up the board, but you go to dunks and threes and you go to EPM over there, something that I know you and I both pay a lot of attention to. You got Embiid, who is a clear-cut dot up there, but Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is by himself on an island. And defensively, he does so many special things. He is so fast in passing lanes. His hands are quick, and he's able to get steals that, he just has great basketball instincts, even on the defensive end. Not saying that Jokic doesn't, but there's a reason that in terms of EPM, he's closer to 10 points, and Jokic is further down the board this season. So for me, I would be voting SGA.
I will say one thing that I think is, Josh and I have talked about this, one thing that's a little bit flawed on dunks and threes, they value the defensive wings and guards the same as big men, which I don't really think is totally accurate. So they have SGA as like, the last I looked, like the 5th or 6th most valuable defensive player in the NBA. I think it's probably a little bit overstated, but yeah, I wouldn't have any sort of issue with SGA winning. Ultimately, I do think it comes down to SGA or Jokic. I have bets on Jokic from the beginning of the season, so he's my preference. But wouldn't be stunned if SGA wins there, Michael Applegate. But I do think it probably is dependent on them being the number 1 seed. And one thing also I know I just said one more thing like 3 times, but
it's okay.
When it comes to Jokic winning 2 MVPs, like you had mentioned before, here's where I actually think it works in his favor, Eric, is he didn't win last year. And there was a ton of voter remorse over that, where people were like, we should have given it to Jokic. We screwed up. So this is where I think that if it's kind of close between Jokic and somebody else, they just don't want the same situation as last year where they don't vote for Jokic. There's people like Mark Jackson didn't even have Jokic on his ballot and people just flamed him for it. So stuff like that, people just, they don't want it to get back to them again. So if it's close, I think they give it to Jokic.
Well, maybe don't be an absolute dolt with your MVP vote then. That might be the correct thing to do. That's just egregious.
That's also part of the issue with the votes being made public is you get people like, I can't remember the name of the Bucks beat reporter, but the Bucks fans a couple years ago tried to get this guy fired from The Athletic and boycotted his work because he voted Jokic for MVP. It creates all kinds of conflicts of interest with these things being public. And there's definitely an element of public pressure that I think these voters feel with what the fan reaction ends up being, because it impacts how it could impact their work, how they get paid. There was a guy who was a Bucks beat reporter that almost lost his job because Bucks fans just said, hey, we're not going to read this guy's work if you're not going to vote Giannis for MVP. So anyway, longer answer.
Keontae George that's surprising to me.
All right, so there we got Keontae George is going to be in, and yeah, not like super surprising to me, but
I mean, it was like, what time was it? Like 2 p.m. Eastern time that news came out?
We've seen that a couple of times recently where
I
players
know.
have missed shoot around with illness. It was Tyrese Maxey had happened. Tyrese Maxey, like a week ago, missed a shoot around, was dealing with an illness. I think it was him. Then he just ended up playing in the game.
Do you think there was a memo or something based on some of the because there was some fugazi going on with the old injury reports at times? Do you think the teams were basically said, hey, if there's a question that this guy might be sitting, you better put him on the damn injury report early? Not that anybody's going out to games to go watch Keontae George go rip it up, but he's a fun rookie. He's definitely talented, but like for the most part, there's got to be something that happened where they basically said, no more of this. At least put it on the injury report, because it does seem like it's more and more happening where you can't just assume that it's like 75-25 or 80-20 that they're going to be out like most mid-season or midday downgrades that we had in the first half of the season.
Yeah, it was. I
mean, De'Aaron Fox has gone through 2 shoot-arounds and not played.
Was it Heat that got fined?
Who was it? Chat's going to tell us in 2 seconds, because there's going to be one person out of the 3,000 watching that remember exactly which situation it was. Well, I don't think it was Miami for some reason. I thought it was somebody else where it was just like so blatant that you just knew that they basically just didn't put the person on the injury report. I can't remember exactly what it was.
Oh, it was the Sixers.
No, Sixers, there you go. That's exactly what it was.
Sixers. It was the Sixers with Embiid. They got fined. Yep. I really do think that was the moment where teams were like, we have to put everything on the injury report.
I think that it was, because I think they got, it was a little bit of a slap on the wrist when you're talking about a multi-billion-dollar organization handing out, $50,000 fines, but like, potentially players, it might be something that they have to pay, or maybe it's something else where it's like, oh, they send something out saying, yo, we're going to fine you a lot more because now you've been warned. And it was kind of a warning for everybody. There had to be something that came out of that, because it does seem as though it has happened a lot more recently where guys get the questionable tag and then they end up playing through it.
Next super chat from Corey Shea wants to know all of our favorite plays who are sub 5K. All right, so I've got a sim run with all of the news now that includes the Portland Trailblazers situation, which I assume this is going to be my final run before lock. So
no, probably not. Probably not. Based on, I don't know what you had for Memphis's starting lineup, but it looks weird.
Kennard, Conchar, Vince Williams, Aldama, and Jemison. So Jemison, who wasn't even
Lamar
active
Stevens off the bench. Yeah, so that's gonna change. I hate the NBA sometimes. Why am I playing 2 sites? I am so dumb. I am so dumb. I need to unreg. I have 17 minutes. I need to unreg FanDuel. I can't do this. I can't do this.
So here are the players that are sub 5K that I was getting the most exposure to in my last run here. Delano Banton, Talen Horton-Tucker, Patrick Beverly, Jay Crowder. Those 4 guys sub 4K that I was getting. Oh, no, my bad. He said sub 5K. Sub 5K. Same answers, though. Same answers. Those 4 guys sub 5K.
How fast can I unregister my lineups on
I'll let you do that. I'll answer. I have to ask you this one question because it's directed to you as a super chat.
Okay, go ahead.
Skull Crusher wants to know, who is the lit make me come play of the night, Eric? This is exactly what the super chat is.
What? The lit you make me come play. Oh shit. Who's it gonna be? Oh shit.
I can tell you if we were asking this question on Twitter, it'd be Sydney Sweeney, because I've seen the same video of her sent out there 10 billion times since she hosted Saturday Night Live.
Oh my god! Oh no, you're talking the goodbye everybody.
I don't know what videos you're watching. I'm talking about the Saturday Night Live thing.
Well, she has the video of her doing the hot sauce thing where, I don't know, it's pretty funny. Okay, did I get these out? Nope. It says an error has occurred. Am I not allowed to unregister these anymore? Yeah, I am. There we go. They're starting to come up. Let's go with. Oof. I got a weird one. I want to know if you have any exposure to this guy. Is anybody going to play whatsoever tonight? Is anybody going to play Domantas Sabonis?
Yeah. I'm overweight. So he's projected for ownership. He's projected for double-digit ownership.
But
I've him in 17% of lineups right now.
Okay, because the more I just look at my lineups and how much value there is and guys in the mid-range and everything else, I'm like, Anthony Davis and LeBron kind of feel like the go-to guys at the top end now. And obviously Lillard, who's a spend up, but you're just getting to because he's still valuable in that regard. But like, I really like Domantas Sabonis for tournaments. You obviously get the double big situation, but also, even though Chicago plays at the slowest pace, you have an opportunity with Domantas Sabonis to just rack up triple doubles on DK. You have, I believe he has power forward eligibility over on FanDuel. At least he did before. And again, I'm trying to move like the Dickens to get him out of lineups over there. Well, I guess it doesn't matter because he's not on the 4-game slate for that. But as I look at things, Domantas Sabonis is the dude that on DK, I think you should have a little bit of a Saboner today.
I'm overweight to him. I mean,
okay.
Like I said, I've got him in 17% of lineups. Well, we'll see once I'm able to update everything for this just dumb Grizzlies starters. Once again, Kennard, Conchar, Vince Williams, Aldama, Jemison. First reaction to that lineup, though, is there somebody who you now think you're going to be getting to a lot of from the Grizzlies?
I don't know about a lot, but Jemison is obviously a human being I did not have in the starting lineup because I had him with the G League team. He played 30 minutes and then got sent down to the G League. It was a blowout, but he had foul trouble. He's okay, good. Thank God. 4,800 Luke Kennard, even though apparently he doesn't want to shoot anymore. He played 24 minutes the last two and had 5 total shot attempts in those 2 games. What are we even doing here?
Here's the easiest takeaway from the starting lineup. Jordan Goodwin does not look good anymore. Not that he looked great before because his price is up, but you definitely don't want to have Goodwin in your lineups now, in my opinion.
No, you do not. This makes it such a clear-cut priority for me to get away from him. I would agree with that. Is there anything else with this rotation that we're missing? Because, like, they have 8.5 dudes. They're going to play Hurt. They're going to play Laravia. They're going to play G.G. Jackson off the bench. We know that. Lamar Stevens is unplayable now. Santi Aldama is kind of probably the guy that I should be giving a little bit of a bump to, but he's expensive now too. And it's Brooklyn. And this game has like a 206 total or something ridiculous. Like I think it's just a downgrade to everybody by the fact that Trey Jameson exists.
We already had Jemison in our projections. I don't think this changes a ton for me. Okay. Other than not liking Goodwin at all anymore.
I didn't have Jemison. 26 minutes. Yeah. I'm not going to probably get to like anything from Memphis now other than Vince Williams. You can definitely get to Vince Williams at like any slate because of the positionality.
Let's get through some more of these questions. Super chat from Chris Albers. He wants to know, can we talk about Portland? Who gets the minutes? Yeah, so I think the minutes are kind of tough to know for sure from this team. I will tell you the player I like the most from a value standpoint is Delano Banton. Good positionality at shooting guard. He's very cheap. So that's the player who, for a low cost, I like the most from Portland. And then if we're looking at somebody who actually his ownership has come up, but so 2 players I get a good amount of, Delano Banton, Jabari Walker from Portland.
I got stuck with so many FanDuel lineups still. This is just painful. All right. Whatever. We continue on our merry way. Let's do this.
All right. And I'll get to some of the questions in Discord here as well. We are getting slammed with questions today.
Go.
Guys.
Just
definitely
fire them off. Fire them off as fast as possible.
So let's see what we have in here. We've got Blitz said that she tried to find she's trying to bet on Chinese bed making. I did see that on Twitter. That is the most bizarre. I mean, you can't call it a sport, but yeah, there's a competition where people make beds as good as they can. And it is something that's very popular I think it was in China. Kenny Wayne 256 wants to know the exotic play of the night. We don't have time for the animation here, Jordan, unfortunately, because it's a fantastic one.
Oh no, I love the animation and the trolling and all of it.
Let's see.
Memphis is so popular on FanDuel now, too. My God.
It is Vooch for me, by the way.
Vooch. Sure.
Miami High Life says thoughts on Xing out all of the players from the 7:30 game, Brooklyn, Memphis, to make room for later news on DK. I don't think you have to. There's no crazy priorities in the first game. If you're playing single entry, I wouldn't be getting to anybody from that game. But because like the guys I'm getting to, it's like, let's see. I want to say I had, it's like double-digit exposure to Claxton, Schroeder. But that's the only guys I have double-digit exposure to. I'm fine with just having a little bit of Claxton, a little bit of Schroeder. I don't want to leave them out of my player pool entirely. No, Warren wants to know, who is the McMillan Diddy pool party play of the night?
Jesus criminy, we have gone so far downhill, everybody. Why are we the way that we are as a society and as a YouTube chat? What are we doing here?
All right, so a pair of teammates here that we think could show out: Damian Lillard and Bobby Portis.
I don't want to answer. I mean,
We've reached Eric's breaking point. He just doesn't want to answer the question.
Luke Kennard, John Conchar. There you go. On FanDuel. I'm finishing FanDuel, and then I'm just going to go to DK and rush.
Will Griffey, hey guys, strategy question. What two positions are you prioritizing spending up for in DK tournaments? Good question. Let's see. So point guard, because that's where Damian Lillard is.
It's important.
I don't have another spend up option that I have a ton of exposure to outside of Dame, though. The one I have the next most of is Anthony Davis, and then I have Sabonis as well. I've got some SGA, but I mean, these are guys who are having like 10 to 20% of lineups, a little bit more of that of Anthony Davis. So the real only priority spend up position for me is point guard.
There you go.
Corey Shea, Collins, or Portis. That is Portis for me.
Portis in everything.
Then we've got a question here from, oh my God, this is the most questions I think we've ever gotten on a show.
Keep going. Just fly.
Rajal Patel. Eric, wrapped Ludacris, South Hospitality.
Cadillac Grills. There you go. Did it.
Boy, that was very half-hearted.
We got time. Go. We got to go.
Teddy Wayman, thoughts on Samanic on FanDuel, and thanks, guys.
Samanic, no.
Too thin. I know he's not. So the other day when people were getting on to Yurtseven and Samanic played instead, you could see it go the other way today. There's no reason Samanic has to play ahead of Yurtseven. It could go the other way. A little too thin for me. Same reason I didn't play Yurtseven when everybody wanted to the other day. I was like, does he have to play minutes? I feel the same way about Samanic today. He doesn't have to play minutes. Bradley Cooper 14 says, can I hear a rule for crashing weddings, Eric?
Rule number 76, no excuses, play like a champion.
Yeah. Always bring yourself a backup set of pants, Riley Cooper 14. Chris Williams, any core players on the 2-game slate on DK?
Like the late slate?
The 2-game night slate, Anthony Davis, that's definitely one for me. It's hard to say beyond that, though, Chris, because we don't have the status update on De'Aaron Fox.
No, it's important.
So here, the ones we know, Anthony Davis, Andre Drummond, those are certainly going to be two of them for me.
Mm-hmm.
Man, I wish I had a better answer for you, but I don't know it's a 2-game slate and De'Aaron Fox is questionable, unfortunately. I'll say those guys for sure as core plays, though, Chris. Race Fan 22, DK 6,400 for the guard spot. He already has Clarkson in the lineup, and thanks. All right, so guard spot, 6,400, and just work on your lineups, Eric. I could do this.
Nope, I'm ready. I've just done DK now, and
okay.
6 minutes ready to wrap.
That is, you already have Clarkson, so I'll say Tyus Jones. It would be Keontae George,
definitely.
But I don't know that I want George and Clarkson in the same lineup. So
yeah, Tyus Jones is 7K FanDuel. Don't blame as much there. DK, definitely more intriguing.
Gray, is Danilo Gallinari in play?
No, not on this slate. Don't you dare play Danilo Gallinari. Don't you dare.
Favorite spend up. It's Damian Lillard followed by Anthony Davis for
Damian Lillard followed by LeBron James for me.
Question here. It is coming to us from Ryan Andriotti. He wants to know, are we prioritizing Sexton, even though Clarkson and Keontae George are both in? I have a pretty good amount of Colin Sexton. That's a yes for me.
Dude, I have so much John Conchar, everything right now. Just want to throw it out there. Everything John Conchar.
Malukar, late slate on FanDuel, favorite players at each position. I have to run lineups for that, and then I'll get back to you, Malukar. Next question here is from Mbach005. How does Dame look without Giannis like the best play on the slate?
Like the best play on the slate. Him and Delano Banton on the cheap end.
And now the next question we have here, it is from Parker Boy. Parker Boy wants to know, he followed Eric's pick 6 on DK, but needs one more, please.
Okay.
Do you remember who you like on pick 6?
Yeah, so 25.5 points, Damian Lillard. I added that to the pick 6 card. So I have a couple of like 6 pick ones that I'm rotating around. I played that one, and then I'm just playing a lot of Washington, Utah, and then I'll wait for any other news in case something happens. But all the pick 6 stuff is official now.
Malukar, top late slate plays on FanDuel. That is currently for me, Kobe White at point guard, Lou Dort at shooting guard, Lou Dort also at small forward. So I'll go to Kevin Huerter there in that place, power forward, Rui Hachimura, and then center, Nikola Vucevic. So Malukar, hope that gives you a good core to build your lineups around there. And also, if you guys want to sign up for any of the packages at Stochastic, which is going to grant you access to, obviously, the data and tools we have on the site, but also gets you access to Discord, where you can hang out with us. You could answer or ask questions I'll answer throughout the night. Sign up using any of the links that we have below. And we have our new data all access plan. So anybody who just wants access to data and wasn't necessarily looking for Sims, we have that for all of the sports that are available up on our site. All that together in one bundle. Let's see. Stokes wants to know, do we prefer Sabonis or SGA? I prefer Sabonis.
Sabonis as well.
And the next question, Rico Rod, top FanDuel plays by position. Eric, who'd you get to at most at each position on FanDuel?
I'll tell you right now here. I know Conchar was one of them. And I know that Luke Kennard, I played a ton of on FanDuel as well. Then Damian Lillard at point guard, at power forward, Bobby Portis at center. It was Nick Claxton.
Next question from Morningwood Blues. Thoughts on Avdia on DK? Let's see.
Mid 6K. He's just a dude now. Like, him and Poole have really fallen by the wayside with all this news.
I can tell you exactly how much Avdia I have here. I have
4%.
I have him in 0.6% of lineup. So
yeah,
almost
I
no
have
exposure.
more. I should probably have 0 is probably the right answer now. But
Dua, he's getting to a lot of Banton. Should I lower his projection? No, I think Banton's a really. I have no issue with having a
best
bunch
cheap play on the slate.
Strixine says he is 70% Yurt7. Is that too much? Yes.
Yes, way too much. Way too much.
Hem downstairs. What sim archetype is best for 3 max on DK? It depends on the buy-in level.
Yep.
Depends on the
buy-in level, and depends on the payout as far as like when you're setting your settings up. Obviously, 10% of the player pool is generally what you're running into in the 3 max stuff. Like the 10%
wants to know our favorite single entry play, either Bobby Portis or Damian Lillard.
Those are the 2.
Einstein wants to know, how do I view Jay Crowder tonight? I was getting to, I have 20% of Jay Crowder. I had a ton of him before more value opened up from Portland. Most notably Banton picking up a bunch of cheap spots for me. But yeah, I have Crowder in 20% of my lineups right now. And then Kenny Wayne wants to know, how much of Sensabaugh are we getting to?
0. He's a 0.6 fantasy point per minute producer. Do not play Sensabaugh. I assume he starts. I'm still not going to play him.
I have Sensabaugh in no lineups at the moment. I mean, if you were in an absolute pinch and you needed to go to him, it wouldn't be the end of the world in like one lineup. Very cheap, 3,200 on DraftKings, good position eligibility. What ended up happening though, so many players have gotten ruled out. There's so much value available. It just wasn't needed. It wasn't needed to go there.
Just what I needed.
All right, let me make sure. Did we get all these questions? I think we did it. One more came in. Ryan Andriotti, last guard spot, Banton or Haggins? Yeah, I prefer Banton. And I assume you mean Haggins. I assume. It says
I hate my lineup so much. I hate them so much.
I have way more exposure to Banton than I do to Haggins right now. Did you end up on very much of Haggins?
No, I didn't end up on nearly as much as I thought I was going to. We'll wait for the Portland starting lineup. That's going to matter. I think Hagin starts, but he's more expensive there on DK. I ended up playing a little bit on FanDuel. Let me double check what I got there on FanDuel. Yeah, I got to 4% of him on FanDuel. On DK, again, DK, I thought I'd get to him, and then the Memphis news, that starting lineup happened, and it's just like, whatever. Good talk.
So you ended up, how much of contract did you end up with after you updated everything?
Oh, God. I'm actually terrified to look because I was rushing. I ended up with 36%.
Interesting. Why is it that you got to so much of John? By the way,
I
We got
have
one more super chat.
no
one more
idea.
super chat from Cully Poston. So I'm going to answer the super chat from Cully Poston. And then we're going to head on over to Playback. So guys, Jordan, drop in the Playback link. You guys come check us out over at Playback. It is totally free to watch the show. I'm going to be breaking down the slate with Josh coming up. We'll talk about bets. We'll talk about whatever kind of breaking news. And I'm sure there's going to be 10 million more late swap scenarios because nothing but news has happened since we've started here. But Cully Poston says, what percentage of the time does Fox outscore Lillard tonight? All right, well, first off, we have to take out the possibility of Fox not playing. Anytime that Fox doesn't play, he gets outscored by Damian Lillard. All things considered, I don't know, 10% of the time.
That seems about right.
Just a guess. I don't have like a real mathematic way to do it, Coley Poston, because like it's very difficult to figure out what are the odds that Fox plays, what does he not play, but go 10%. We'll ask Josh over on Playback as well. So guys, thank you very much for watching. If you're not done yet, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel, come join us over at Playback. Free show over there as well. We could watch the games, we could sweat everything on right over there. So just click the link, come join us there. See you guys over in Playback.